right, we have candidates this evening will be Griffitts. He's currently serving as Bay County Commissioner, representing District 5. He and his brother are co-owner of Griffitts Construction. And we also have Brian Clowdus. He's the owner of Brian Clowdus Experiences, a theater production company that operates around the United States. And we also have some agreed upon rules that the candidates have agreed upon, and when I'll read them, they will nod and acquiesce that they have agreed. We also have some spectator rules. In order that we all get home by 10 o'clock tonight, if you would, please, no applause, please no booing. The time that we spend doing that, we take away from the precious time that we can be hearing from our candidates. And freedom of speech is an important thing, but if you don't exercise it responsibly, you get into theft of hearing. People have traveled, many people have traveled a long way to be here tonight, and they have a right to hear. The written and opening and closing remarks are allowed tonight if candidates wish to use those. Other written notes, talking points, and materials will not be permitted. A blank notepad will be provided for each candidate. No disruption of candidates speaking during their allotted time. No signs, banners, flags, noise makers allowed in the debate venue, and no placing literature on chairs in the venue. Table for literature and volunteer recruitment will be provided for each candidate immediately outside the debate area. And now for the audience. I know you love rules. Please be respectful of all candidates and all those in attendance at all times. Please hold all applause until the end of the debate in order for more questions to be asked. No jeering or booing. We don't need that here tonight. No signs, banners, flags, noisemakers allowed in the debate venue. No placing literature on chairs in the debate venue. And if you have a cell phone, could you please turn it off or silence it? Justice Thomas said this past week that he's very concerned that too many Americans are looking at their cell phone instead of their Constitution. Spectators not abiding by the rules will be escorted out of the debate venue, and we do not want to have to do that, okay? So let's everybody just try to get along. This debate is an informational, educational event. It is not a pep rally contest for any candidate or cause. Once again, the candidates have agreed to the rules ahead of time, so we're going to get started. I purposely asked that these questions, which I have not been privy to, were not to be given to me until tonight. I want to be sure that we are as unbiased and as fair as possible for all candidates and for all causes. We will start with opening remarks, and I believe Mr. Clowdus won by toss of a coin. You have 2 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Clowdus. I believe in God, guns, low taxes, and freedom. I believe 2020 was a stolen presidential election. I unapologetically stand beside President Trump. I unapologetically stand beside the best governor in the country, Governor Ron DeSantis. Much like President Trump and our Governor DeSantis, I am the underdog candidate. I am not handpicked. No one took me in a back room and said, it is your time to run for office. I saw a need in this community to have a person who would be a servant, someone who would unapologetically fight for the wants and needs of this community. And guess what? The future of our country and our community is the America First movement. Unapologetically putting our country first, unapologetically putting our state first, and unapologetically putting our community first. When I talk about community, I mean all of Bay County. Every single person who is a citizen in this community matters. It doesn't matter if you are part of the elite or part of the good old boy system. What matters is that you are here, your voice deserves to be heard, and my job is to listen to what is important to you and go to Tallahassee and amplify your voice at a state level. 14 months ago, I started knocking on doors with a blank piece of paper with the goal to listen. We have knocked on over 15,000 doors and created the People's Plan. Every point that is in my plan came from you, the people of Bay County. And guess what? You finally have a warrior.
We'll now move to Griffitts. We'd like to
Thank you, Daryl, and I appreciate it. I'd like to thank the REC for having us tonight. My name is Griffitts. I'm a third-generation Bay Countyan. I was born and raised right here in this town. I've lived here my entire life. I raised my family here. I've built businesses and sold businesses here. Was lucky enough to be appointed by Governor Scott to be your county commissioner 6 years ago. I've served as the county commissioner for 6 years through some very, very difficult times. This county borrowed $300 million after Hurricane Michael to clean it up. We have not raised one tax on the citizens. That's something we're very, very proud of. We could have easily millaged our way out of a very bad situation. We chose not to place that burden on the citizens of Bay County. We chose to figure it out on ourselves. A good tax steward's principal job is to pay attention to the money you give to the county or to the state. I think we've done a very, very good job over the last 6 years doing that. I asked for your vote today because I get labeled as the rhino, the establishment, the good old boy candidate, but I will just tell you all the things that my family has done over the last few decades, my wife's family included, that doesn't call us the establishment candidate. We're the experience candidate. We have a lot of experience up here. I've gone through some very troubling times with this county, and I'm very proud of the successes we've had. While we were not perfect, we have done an amazing job over the last 6 years, and I'm very proud of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Griffiths. We're now going to move into the question and the response portion of the debate. There will be a 2-minute question response time. The timekeeper, Brian, is down front. You can recognize him because he has no hair and a beard. He said, but I'm thinking that's going around, I'm sure. And my coin toss, Mr. Clowdus, this first question will go to you. To explain how your educational background and real-life work experience has prepared you for this position, and explain how it makes you the better choice candidate for this position for the Florida House.
Yeah, well, number one, I'm not a politician, so I think that automatically makes me a better public servant. I am very new to all of this. I've been very upfront about that since day one. Everyone knows I come from the entertainment industry. I've worked in it my entire life. Guess who else came from the entertainment industry? President Reagan and President Donald Trump. I will tell you, dealing with actors was actually pretty good training for dealing with politicians, because I thought people were crazy in theater. People are bonkers in politics. I mean, people, you talk about like, you thought there were divas in theater. There are so many egos and so many personalities in politics. And unfortunately, people care more about themselves, about taking care of their families and their friends, than actually getting boots to the ground and hitting the pavement and working and being a representative of the people. I have an undergraduate degree and a master's degree. I have ran 2 multi-million-dollar companies. A lot of people don't know that about me. They think, oh, he's like some kid who's worked in theater his whole life that really doesn't know how to be a politician. I take pride in being told I don't know how to be a politician, because guess what's wrong with our country? Politicians. We need actual everyday people who are not part of the system to stand up and say, I don't care about lobbyists. I don't care about big corporate money. What I care about is the people of Bay County, and you will not find anyone who's going to fight for it any more than I will.
Mr. Griffiths, same question to you. Explain how your educational background and real-life work experience has prepared you for this position, and explain how it makes you the better choice candidate for this position for the Florida House.
Well, so in 1974, my dad was working for Southern Bell, and he was going to be transferred to Miami, Florida, and he decided he didn't want to raise his family down there, and he bought a small 13-room hotel on this beach, and he moved his family into the back room. My mother, my father, and myself worked that hotel. We built that hotel up to 100 units. I know what it's like to pay a check. I know what it's like to sign on the back of a paycheck. I also know what it's like not to get a paycheck. I know what it's like to sit at home and live off credit cards while you're trying to make sure every one of your payroll is complete. That's a very difficult position to be in. Small business is very, very hard. Our 45 years as a family in the hotel business taught me how to deal with all types of people. All types of people. So I'm not worried about talking to people. I'm not afraid of tough questions or hard decisions. I've had to do that my entire life. So 45 years in the hotel business, 6 years as a county commissioner working through a Category 5 hurricane, a global pandemic, and wildfires over the last year have given me the experience to be a much better candidate for this job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's also a 45-second question response if you would like to, Mr. Clowdus, to both candidates back and forth.
I mean, sure. I mean, you know, I think the definition of a state representative is in the title, right? You represent the people. So I think you judge how someone will end up being in office based on the campaign they run. No one can say that me and my volunteers have not worked our booties off. We have knocked on doors all across Bay County, and you really get to know what people need when you're knocking in these areas that typically don't have someone that's going to listen and put their needs first. So I think the best training to be a public servant, it comes from knocking on doors, talking to people, and making sure that everyone's voice is heard, period.
Mr. Griffitts, would you like to respond?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the fact that he thinks knocking on doors and working hard makes him the better campaigner, the better candidate, but it's simply not the fact. I've been listening to citizens for 6+ years. I've been listening to citizens since October 10th, 2018, very day in and day out trying to figure out solutions for this community. Mr. Clowdus didn't live here during the hurricane, didn't live here before, during, or after. So to talk about citizens and their needs, I know their needs. I've been listening to them for a long time.
Mr. Griffiths, next question for you. Governor Ron DeSantis said multiple times last session that if the House and Senate would pass constitutional carry legislation that he would sign it. Will you co-sponsor legislation similar to Anthony Sabatini's HB 103, which was blocked by this year's Republican legislature?
Governor DeSantis wants to sign it, we'll sponsor legislation. He's endorsed it, we'll absolutely endorse it and go with him. We support the governor in everything he does. He's been a fine governor. I think the free state of Florida has proven that over the last few years. Governor DeSantis' agenda has worked every single time. It's been great to watch him look back at everybody over the country over the last few years and to say, I told you so, I told you so. So if constitutional carry is on the governor's agenda, we'll absolutely sponsor it and sign it.
Mr. Clowdus, same question to you. Governor Ron DeSantis said multiple times last session that if the House and Senate would pass constitutional carry legislation, that he would sign it. Will you co-sponsor legislation similar to Anthony Sabatini's HB 103, which was blocked by this year's Republican legislature?
100%. You know, one of my top promises has always been Second Amendment rights. I've said day one, I believe in constitutional carry. I also believe in overturning red flagging laws. In what world are you guilty until proven innocent? There is something greatly wrong with our judicial system that red flagging is affecting common, everyday people. It doesn't affect the ultra-wealthy because the ultra-wealthy can hire attorneys and they can go to court. This really affects middle to lower class citizens. This is the heart of Bay County, right? It's us against them. And I'm going to kick back a little bit because I do think that I don't see Tallahassee actually supporting our governor full-heartedly. There are people, as Republicans in the House and the Senate, where our governor has to fight tooth and nail to get anything done. So I don't think that everybody in Tallahassee actually supports him 100%. I think that most people in Tallahassee, especially in leadership roles, are beholden to lobbyists, are beholden to big corporate money, and are more concerned about putting money into their political action committee. I would like to say, though, you have to balance it. If you come in two, barrels of blazing and you don't pass legislation, I don't consider that being a successful state legislator. So I do understand you have to balance and nuance these conversations. But the one thing I will never do is compromise the wants and needs of the people of Bay County. And if I'm not communicating directly with you and asking you, how you would like for me to vote on upcoming bills or bills that are important to you, I should not be in the position I am. But I will fight for you, and I will work alongside Governor DeSantis, and I will not combat him every step of the way. It is ridiculous.
Mr. Griffitts, 45 seconds.
Yeah, so let's talk about Anthony Sabatini, who's been nicknamed Absentini. He was removed from committees at the state legislature for not participating. He was more focused on self-promotion. Look, the bill has fine in its merits. It was not passed last year because the gentleman who proposed it was just simply a thorn in the side of everybody in Tallahassee. He called the leadership disparaging names. He does not know how to work with people. He doesn't play well in a sandbox. Let's just put it that way. So the fact that Sabatini proposed the bill does not make it great. There will be other legislatures or myself that propose it, and it will get passed. Thank you.
We would like 45 second response.
Like 15. Here's the thing. We need more thorns in the side of politicians. The fact that someone is penalized because they don't play well or they're not part of the system, I think goes against everything that we're talking about. Like I just said, I do understand you have to lead with kindness. You have to listen to people. But if we're saying, oh, they don't play by the rules, they don't play in the sandbags, let's don't pass their bills, that is disgusting, and that is what is wrong with our country.
Thank you. Next question goes to Mr. Clowdus. Growth in Western Bay County has significantly outpaced that of Eastern Bay County. The surge of new residents to this area shifts power and influence to the west. Hurricane Michael and the pandemic has increased the challenges that Eastern Bay County faces. How can you best represent both ends of the county with very different needs at the present time?
Like the word, balance. It is all a balancing act, right? I will tell you these people's doors that I am knocking on, and I keep talking about knocking on doors because that's what I'm doing to listen and absorb the wants and needs of the community. Some of these people do not feel heard. If they've had an opportunity to be heard, they do not know about this opportunity, but they feel as if they are, I hear them, every little town says we're the redheaded stepchildren of Bay County. And don't get me wrong, I love the beach, I love the cove, like I love all of Bay County, but I always say we've got to get help to the people who need it the most. There is a significant amount of money being funneled into Bay County. I don't see that being allocated fairly. You identify the communities that need help and need support the most, and those are the people you go out and help first. And some of these municipalities have very limited staff. I realize that. They don't have a grant writer on staff. So how can we, at a state level, as a representative and a senator, step up, identify these communities that so desperately need help, and say there are resources available. We would love come to sit on your porch, sit in your town hall, city hall, and listen to what is important, and make sure we identify the areas that need support the most.
Thank you. Same question to you, Mr. Griffitts. Growth in Western Bay County has significantly outpassed that of Eastern Bay County. The surge of new residents to this area shifts power and influence to the west. Hurricane Michael and the pandemic has increased the challenges that Eastern Bay County faces. How can you best represent both ends of the county with very different needs at this present time?
That's a great question, Daryl. So obviously Bay County, we have our 7 municipalities. They're all very diverse. Panama City Beach does not have an ad valorem tax. They use their 1% city sales tax. Parker doesn't have an ad valorem tax. Some of the smaller cities do. They have some resources to help with grant writing. They have some resources to help with FEMA reimbursement. But the challenge is that money flows from the federal government to the state government before it ever flows to the local municipality. Sometimes there's purgatory in all those challenges. I have a great idea. Obviously takes legislative action. The state of Florida is sitting on $16 billion in a rainy day fund. Rainy day fund, $16 billion sitting there. Take 1% of that rainy day fund, $160 million, figure out how to distribute that money to those cities that need it quickly after disasters for resiliency and mediation efforts. You could put that money to work much quickly. Right now we wait on CDBG grants, HNGP grants. Those are 3 to 5 years out before they ever flow into the community. We could take that money from the state level, get it to work, but much quicker, so these smaller cities have access to capital and they can get to work immediately.
Mr. Clowdus, 45 second response.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are all great ideas. You know, as someone who's been a public elected official for 6 years with a very close relationship to our current state representative, you know, why are these things we haven't done already?
Great question. I think those are obvious answers that the legislature has to tackle. There's 120 House members. One great idea doesn't make a solution. You have to get total consensus amongst the House to get that passed.
Next question, Mr. Griffith, goes to you. Housing costs are one of the biggest issues facing Bay County. Rents and housing prices have skyrocketed in recent years, while homeowners have faced increased insurance costs and fewer choices. What can the state do to keep Florida affordable for residents?
The state is trying in its best effort to get that money to flow to the local level to help with the State Housing Initiative Program, the SHIP program, which helps first-time home buyers with down payment assistance and closing costs. Once again, the money does not quite flow as fast as it should. Once it gets to the local level, they can put it to work. Bay County took over the housing program in January of this year. We've had 40 closings since January of this year through the SHIP program. That's triple what was done last year. We will probably have over 100 closings done by the end of the year, and that will continue to grow to put millions and millions of federal dollars running through the state to our local economy to hopefully find these first-time home buyers affordable housing that they can stay in. What we noticed after Hurricane Michael is 70% of our people affected were in rental homes. We've got to promote home ownership, and this is a great way to do that.
Same question to you, Mr. Clowdus. Housing costs are one of the biggest issues facing Bay County. Rents and housing prices have skyrocketed in recent years, while homeowners have faced increased insurance costs and fewer choices. What can the state do to keep Florida affordable for residents?
I'm tired of hearing the money flows slowly, because I will tell you what, it doesn't flow so slowly to certain areas of Bay County. I see it go very quickly to certain areas. So we have got to, the fact that we've admitted it does flow slowly, we've got to figure out why it flows slowly to certain areas, but it doesn't seem to flow slowly to other areas. I will say it is not just a housing market issue. Guess what else? It is property insurance. It is Florida Power and Light. People can honestly not afford to live here anymore. Rent is skyrocketing. You can't find a house under $400,000. And guess what? We're a tourism-driven industry. If our tourism workers don't have anywhere to live, what happens to our overall industry? We have got to put a priority of making Bay County affordable with housing, with Florida Power and Light, with property insurance. And I always look at who is donating to campaigns. And if you were taking dollars from Florida Power and Light, if you were taking donors or dollars from insurance lobbyists, how can you possibly have these open, honest fights for the people when you are beholden to the dollars of those who are putting it in your back pocket?
Mr. Griffitts, 45 seconds response.
Yeah, I don't know what you think people buy with their donation. I'm very honest with everyone, have been for many, many years since I decided to run, and telling them no is still an answer. You can give me money. If you think I'm beholden to you, I've got a checkbook in my car. I'll write you the check back. I don't need your money that much. I assure you I'm not beholden to anyone but God in my life. Thank you.
Mr. Clowdus, 45 seconds response.
I think you're definitely the rarity because I think most politicians that take money for your political action campaign, I don't think it's just for fun. You don't typically give people thousands of dollars as just like a, hey, here's money, good work. You give people money because you are buying their time. Any lobbyist will tell you that. And again, you don't have to always vote in favor of them, but you give political candidates money so they will make time to listen to you. Guess who all of my donors are? They're the people of Bay County. It's small dollar donors, and I will give you just as much time and attention if you gave me $15 than if you gave me $15,000.
Yeah, I would ask you to look at the campaign donations. 75% of my donations are from within the district. All the money I have spent, t-shirts, commercials, radio, is within the district. Mr. Clowdus' campaigns are 75% of his donations are out of the district. They might be smaller, there might be more people, but they're outside the district. I would ask you, why is that outside money coming into our district to pay influence in here? I think that's a valid question.
I'll tell you why it is, because people around the country are sick of politicians. People are inspired to see people step up and unapologetically fight for the people of their district. This is a movement across the country. So yes, I might have donors across the country who are excited to see someone who is willing to step up and be a patriot. This is no longer a Democrat versus Republican issue. This is a freaking take our country back issue.
Would you like a 45-second response? I can do it for both of you one more time on this.
A patriot is such a strong word. I think we have plenty of vets in this community that are true patriots. If you moved to my community 2 years ago and declare yourself a patriot, doesn't make you one. I've been in this community 3 generations. I have dedicated time, effort, and money to this community and will continue to do so. I love Bay County. I love every part of Bay County. I know it backwards and forwards. So to act like I don't fight for this community is laughable, strictly laughable.
I never said you didn't fight for your community. Oh, sorry, we lost count.
Mr. Gosh, are you finished?
He said he hit the gavel.
Yeah, it goes 2 rounds.
Okay, all right. I got in trouble that time. Moving on here. Next question goes to Mr. Clowdus. You believe Joe Biden won the 2020 presidential election fair and square? Or do you believe there was widespread coordinated voter fraud? Do you believe Florida has the necessary improvements in our state to ensure free and fair elections in Florida?
2020 was a stolen presidential election, period. Have y'all seen 2,000 Mules? If you have not, go home tonight and see that movie. But guess what? Bay County is in a great position because we have an incredible supervisor of elections. Mark Anderson, he is on top of it. If you have not had a tour, he is the kindest man. He will take you through each step of the process and explain to you how voting works in Bay County. I think this could be an incredible model for our entire state. But I will tell you the one thing we need to do ASAP in the state of Florida is clean up our voter rolls. Period. Dead people should not be voting. People who don't live here should not be voting. It is the easiest way to cheat in an election. So if we made a statement as a state and said we are taking this on, we're going to clean up our voter rolls, I think it would shake waves around the country. So I think we have an incredible opportunity. But yes, 2020 was a stolen freaking election, and I ain't having it, period.
Same question to you, Mr. Griffitts. Do you believe Joe Biden won the 2020 presidential election fair and square? Or do you believe there was widespread coordinated voter fraud? Do you believe Florida has the necessary improvements in our state to ensure free and fair elections in Florida?
I know as a commissioner, I was on the 2020 canvassing board for Bay County, and I watched Mark Anderson at work, and I know the 2020 elections in Bay County there was no fraud at all. I know the job he does. I've sat with the Secretary of State, Laurel Lee, when she came to Panama City to talk to Mark Anderson about voting sites after Hurricane Michael, and where she looked at me and said, this is the flagship of the state. Mark Anderson has the flagship office of the state. That holds a lot of weight with me. She is a very respected woman who's now running for Congress, who I think will do a great job in South Florida. However, what we have in the state of Florida down south are problems. If anything we saw on the news is relatively true, then there was absolutely fraud committed around the country. We have to make sure those laws are changed. Florida's done a great job trying to step into the voter rolls to make sure they do clean them up. We can't have people registered in 2 states. There are probably people in this room that are registered in 2 states. That's illegal. It's got to stop.
Clowdus, 45-second response.
But the question was, do you think that the presidential election was stolen? Do you think Biden is our legitimate president? That's the question.
I think in certain states there was election fraud. Do I know that it was a stolen election? I don't know it was stolen in Florida. I know what we did here locally, and I know it was absolutely perfect. So the vote here in Bay County is what I know about.
All right, let's move on to the next question. This goes to Griffith. The recent FBI investigation of public corruption in Lynn Haven and Tallahassee have brought public trust in our elected officials to an all-time low. If elected, how will you assure voters that you are making the wisest use of their tax dollars and not funneling state money to friends and donors?
My question?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Very proud to say that over the 6 years I've been a commissioner, my name has never once come up in these federal indictments. Very proud of that. Also very proud to say I have Sheriff Ford's endorsement. I don't think the sheriff would endorse me if he thought there was a second I was corrupt. Lynn Haven has problems, we know that. I will tell you, every elected official in this state has to take a 4-hour ethics class every year, required by the state. 4 hours. The first rule in that is you can't take a gift from a vendor over $100. It's real simple. It's real simple. Those laws were violated in Lynn Haven, and I think people are going to have to answer for them in the future.
Mr. Clowdus, same question to you. The recent FBI investigation of public corruption in Lynn Haven and Tallahassee have brought public trust in our elected officials to an all-time low. If elected, how will you assure voters that you are making the wisest use of their tax dollars and not funneling state money to friends and donors?
The main reason I am running is because I think corruption has plagued not only Bay County, not only our state, but the entire country for far too long. It is time that we have people who are not part of the system. And I think it is great to say that you will not do this or not be part of this system, but guess what? You are who you hang out with. And based on who you're with and people being handpicked for roles, and nobody really campaigning in Bay County. You know, it feels like people are kind of handpicked for these roles. And for me, it doesn't feel fair. So having someone who is going to actually fight and work and unapologetically put the people first and be transparent. Guess what my job is? My job is to listen. My job is to communicate, and my job is to be transparent. Before I started running for office, I didn't know what the heck a state legislator did. I didn't know any of this, like most people in Bay County, right? It's like things seem to stay a little hidden, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, let's don't tell them what's actually happening. Guess what? From day one when I get to Tallahassee, I'm going to be documenting the entire process. I'm going to bring back town halls. I'm going to make sure that your voice is at the forefront of every single decision I am making. I'm not going to surround myself with people who can pad my pocket. I understand you have to have conversations with those people, and I will be respectful, and I will have conversations with people I wholeheartedly disagree with, but I will never, ever compromise myself or compromise the people of Bay County.
Mr. 45-second response.
I've never had my pocket padded, for the record, just to be perfectly honest. That's absolutely ludicrous. While there are people in this community that are in trouble and under investigation, I'm not one of them. You are who you surround yourself with, correct? Mr. Clowdus has an endorsement from a city councilwoman who is a registered Democrat. So you are who you surround yourself with. So I think she's actually said online she would change her party affiliation to vote for Mr. Clowdus. So I'm just telling you, you are who you hang out with. Thank you.
I see you over there, Mr. Clowdus. 45 seconds response.
I think that's a miracle. I converted one, y'all. I mean, honestly, I'm doing the work and pounding the pavement. Judy Tender is an incredible she's an incredible city commissioner in Lynn Haven. She has been so kind and so incredible. So to discount her just because she is a Democrat, she changed parties because she so believed in having someone who was going to represent her. So I take pride. Guess what? I used to work in a very liberal theater industry. I walked away from that movement as well because this is the movement of unapologetically being patriot and unapologetically do the right thing. So Judy, I love you. Welcome to the right side.
Let me remind you, time needed to quiet the audience takes away from the opportunity for candidates to answer questions of voters. And you guys are doing so well. So if you would please, let's hold the pause and any outbursts until this is over. Next question for Brian Clowdus. Governor DeSantis has made it clear in Florida that corporations cannot force their values onto their employees or customers. He recently made an example out of the Walt Disney Company. How will you balance the donations you may accept from larger businesses with the values of your voters?
Well, step one, I'm not going to take donations from people that do not align with my values. I worked for Disney. I absolutely loved Disney. Everyone in this room knows that I've been very outspoken about HB 1557, quoted as the Don't Say Gay bill. When I heard people losing their marbles over it, I said, well, let me print this little guy out. It's like 7 pages. It's totally digestible. It's not like the federal bills that are thousands of pages that you can't read. I printed the bill out and I said, well, the word gay is not even in this bill. So I guess that's, a false narrative that's being created by the far left woke movement. And I said it doesn't say anything. What it says is K through 3. We're talking about children. K through 3 should not have sexual instruction or gender identity conversations with their children. Y'all, the fact that our governor has to pass this bill is absolutely ludicrous to me. We need to put parenting back in the household. The school is a place to learn reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's not a place to pass out your pronoun name tags day 1 of kindergarten. So I think it is very important that we look at the truth, read the bills, and go against the narrative. But Governor DeSantis, everybody said the mouse rules Florida, right? He showed them fair and square the mouse does not rule Florida, and he hit Disney where it hurt them the most. Financially, he took away their privileges because guess what? You can't talk to your leader or bite the hand that feeds you that way or else you lose your privileges. And I applaud our governor because guess what? He set a precedent for the entire country once again.
Same question to you, Mr. Griffitts. Governor DeSantis has made it clear in Florida that corporations cannot force their values onto their employees or customers. He recently made an example out of the Walt Disney Company. How will you balance the donations you may accept from large businesses with the values of your voters?
Yeah, I'm a father of 2 daughters, so I'm very proud of that. I'm also very proud of the fact of Governor DeSantis when he took a shot across their bow. Disney needs to stay in their lane. They're very good at entertaining kids, and they're very good at sucking $20 bills out of parents. But they do not need to be in the policy-making business. Tweeting and social media does not make policy. And I think Disney got a first-hand effect of what they were trying to do by stepping off into the policy game. They don't need to come over onto that side of the swim lane. Governor DeSantis did a great job by trying to say, hey, we're going to hit you in the pocketbook. It's important. Everybody pays attention when you get in your pocketbook. We know that. I think the greatest thing about this is it's going to reset the entire Reedy Creek district in Central Florida. Universal, SeaWorld, those guys are not upset about this decision at all because they've had to live under the same rules as the rest of Florida the rest of their lives. Now it's time for Disney to start living under the same rules as the rest of the citizens of Florida.
Mr. Clowdus, 45 seconds response. Wouldn't need to respond, would you? Next question, Mr. Griffitts. Last week, the United States Supreme Court ruled that the regulation of abortion, like other medical procedures, is up to the individual states. This year, Governor DeSantis signed HB 5, Reducing Infant and Fetal Mortality, which outlaws abortion after 15 weeks, with the exception to the health of the mother. Do you believe this law in Florida is appropriate, or do you believe we need to change the law? If so, how do we need to change that?
I'm 100% pro-life. I applaud the actions of the legislature and the governor over this last year. However, if there's strict rules to be in place for the states' rights are super important. I think we've all recognized that over the last few years. So for the Supreme Court to give it back to the state to let us and the people make the decision, I think is paramount. I think the legislature will attack it in the session in the upcoming year, and I think it will be addressed, and it's likely to be banned in the state of Florida.
Same question to you. Let me reread it just so we make sure. Last week, the United States Supreme Court ruled that the regulation of abortion, like other medical procedures, is up to the individual states. This year, Governor DeSantis signed HB 5, reducing infant and fetal mortality, which outlaws abortion after 15 weeks with the exception of threats to the health of the mother. Do you believe this law in Florida is appropriate, or do you believe we need to change the law? And if so, how do we need to change the law?
I was very excited to see this huge step for life. We saw at a federal level saying, you know what, it is states' rights to choose this, because guess what we want? We want more power in our states and less power in the federal, the big government. We want to be in control of our decisions here. I am a huge fan of the heartbeat bill. I think it is a great step along the journey of preserving life. We defend those who don't have a voice for themselves, right? We have to, as a community, say we're unapologetic in fighting for those rights that don't have a voice themselves. I think the heartbeat bill is a first step, but I'm 100% pro-life, and we must fight for those who do not have a voice to fight for themselves.
Response, anything to add? 45 seconds.
No, the heartbeat bill is paramount for our success as a state to get to the next step. I think what the legislature did was very important this last year, but I don't think it's over. I think we're going to be talking about it a lot over the coming year.
Mr. Clowdus, 45 seconds.
I'm good.
This brings us to the last question for this evening, to Mr. Clowdus. Both of you have described yourselves as conservative. What does conservatism mean to you?
Being conservative means that you are in charge of your own life, and you are going by two documents, the Bible and the Constitution. If we all read those two documents and led a good life and didn't have so much government overreach, I think the problem that is wrong with our country, outside of politicians, is the fact that people now worship the government. I'm a conservative because I believe in putting our country first. I believe in keeping our borders closed. I think immigration is wonderful. I love that this country is a melting pot, but it should be done legally and it should be done fair, because it is not fair for those who immigrated to our country legally. I'm a fan of keeping our taxes as low as possible. I am not a fan of government spending. The amount of debt that our country is in currently, and the fact that we are okay with sending billions and billions of dollars to a foreign country when we as Americans can barely afford to fill up our gas tanks. When we as Americans are okay with having homeless veterans on the streets, when we as Americans are okay with our babies not having formula, I think it is criminal, I think it is wrong, and I am outspoken about what true conservative values are. This is not the movement of racism, homophobia, and hate. This is the movement of love. This is the movement of acceptance, and if you are a patriotic, God-loving American, you belong in this big tent of conservatism. We have taken the word back, and we have created a movement where we are going to fight, and we're going to put our country first, and we're going to stop apologizing for it.
Mr. Griffith, same question to you. Both of you have described yourselves as conservative. What does conservatism mean to you?
So I think it's a lot about the personal freedoms we all have here in our district. When I decided to run 6 years ago, I read a speech that my wife's grandfather wrote in 1964 for the county commission. And I read it as I was telling people I was going to run. And that speech rings true today. The same ideas that he had in the 60s to try to bring success to Bay County are still merits. They still have merit today. The true spirit of Bay County is something that is not breakable. I saw it after Hurricane Michael. I saw the people in this community, what they did as a group. I saw them come under this big tent of conservatism that's always been in Bay County. It's never been anything but that. I appreciate everybody coming to the right side. I think it's where we all need to be. But the true values, the Bay County values that I know we have, the ones that I've seen my whole life, The ones that I saw after Hurricane Michael, the ones that I continue to see today, are the ones that I want to take to Tallahassee so that they know, South Florida knows, Bay County values and the conservative values that we pride ourselves in, which is individual freedoms, less red tape, less bureaucracy, less taxes, less government, all of the above. We are a conservative county. We're not ever going to change. We're actually getting more and more conservative by the day, and I'm thankful for that.
Mr. Clowdus, 45 seconds to add.
I do think that the Republican Party is going through a new movement. I think there are people who weren't political at all before. I've been very honest, I was never that political. I worked in the leftist, most liberal leaning industry ever. When that industry started telling me I had to behave a certain way, that is when I started listening to people like Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro. I started asking, why does everybody hate President Trump so much? And guess what? When you start looking at the facts, it is impossible. You take the emotions out of it, you look at the facts, all we want is absolute personal freedom.
Personal freedom is paramount. I think we've always lived it in Bay County. I think we've always treasured it. I think we've seen it firsthand, what we've had to deal with over the last 3.5 years. This community, we linked arms and we walked together as a group to try to rebuild what was a devastated community. I think we've done a great job. So the conservative values that we have and hold so dear are something I want to take to Tallahassee and show the rest of the state what we do here.
Thank you very much. Both of you candidates did very well tonight. This is the end of the question and answer period. We will now allow 2 minutes per candidate for a closing statement. Mr. Clowdus, you won the first question, or had to have
First
question. So, Mr. Griffith, 2 minutes.
Well, thank you. I appreciate everyone's time tonight. I thank you for the invitation. I thank you for the questions, Daryl, and doing such a great job. I humbly ask for your vote on August 23rd. Like I said, I'm the most experienced candidate. I don't need on-the-job training. This job is not ready for that. We are in a community that does not need any more disruption. We had enough disruption 3.5 years ago. I'm ready to go to work. I humbly ask for your vote. Put me to work on August 23rd, and I promise you I'll make you proud.
I think this community needs a disruption. I'm excited to shake things up here in Bay County. I define the community of Bay County as every single person who lives here. I don't care if you moved here a week ago. I don't care if you lived here 87 years. You are valued and you are part of this community. I'm tired of hearing people brag about what they have done for a community. I want to see results. Talk is very cheap. Results are not. We need to have someone in this community who is going to fight, who is going to unapologetically put you first. Guess what? All politicians should have a learning curve. If you don't have a learning curve, you're a politician. You need to have a learning curve. You need to learn. Because guess what? If you're going in there already to be a politician, you are the epitome of a politician. Yes, there will be a learning curve for me, but guess what? I am smart, I have a huge heart, I am hardworking, and I am here to fight the slanders that are coming at me left and right, because guess what? I'm a major threat, and it is very clear that I am a threat, but guess what will win? Hard work will win. Passion will win. And Bay County, I am proud to tell you, I will be your next Florida State Representative.
Okay.